Now, for more perspective on how workers will be affected, I'm joined by COSATU General Secretary Vavi and COSATU National Pension Coordinator Jan Mahlangu. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time and for joining us this morning. Mr. Vavi, perhaps let's start off with you. I mean, it's 4 days now since the system has gone live in South Africa. COSATU had dubbed this a scam. Is this what you still believe? And what are your main concerns about the two-pot system?
Just listen to that insight where an old lady says she hopes to withdraw money in order to deal with the calamity she's facing, where she lost her house because of the climate change that is devastating parts of South Africa, lost her house through strong winds or heavy rains, storms, displaced by that climate change calamity. And she unfortunately needs to appreciate that the amount of money she will get after deduction of the tax and the administration fee, and possibly SARS, who is also queuing up to get whatever amount due to them, may end up being way less at the maximum. Workers who have sufficient 10% that is kept at 30% may get 24,000, and but others will get 17,000, pending on whether they do not own SARS any money. Now, this is why we have a problem. The scheme designed was excellent idea. We have no qualms with that. It was responding to the crisis of one of the biggest health scares in our lifetime, the 2021-2022 COVID-19. But then in the detail, I think that the government stands to benefit more through tax collection. We think that the administration companies, look at the ones that was in your insert, says they expect 10,000. Multiply that 10,000 by 500 rands each worker is going to contribute to see how much money they will be making out of this scheme. That's where our problem is.
Mr. Mahlangu, perhaps let's just bring you in here. I mean, as COSATU, you had eagerly anticipated for the system to be implemented since you advocated for it in 2020. And as Newzroom is saying that it came off the back of COVID-19 and the effects thereof. But some unions argue that what was initiated as a financial relief for workers was then hijacked by technocrats and us now seeing the two-pot system in what it is today. Is this what COSATU had advocated for?
Yet, I'm not too sure. And again, thanks for inviting us. Maybe let me start with the issue of the insight, the housing issue. Let's remind retirement fund members that the two-pot system, the savings pot, does not replace Section 19 of the Act, where workers are allowed to borrow from their retirement funds for housing purposes, etc. Let's just clarify that. The hijacking by others, if we talk about cost, the admin cost, we've been in many discussions and we are continuing on a weekly basis with the Financial Sector Conduct Authority to say, what have you seen insofar as the admin costs are concerned? And they've indicated to us that there was a bit of a spike, and we said, you need to put in a directive that says it cannot be correct that you are raising admin fees for the two-pot system. Yes, like any other, a system, week in and work out, retirement funds are paying retirement fund benefits, be it for retirement, be it death, disability, etc. Admin costs are being paid. The concern we have is when then those are actually increased because people want to profit at the expense of workers on the basis that here is the two-pot system, let's profit quickly. That we condemn, and we think the Financial Sector Conduct Authority must take action around that and make sure that they put a directive to ensure that people don't abuse workers. That is the first part. But there are other administrators out there where they're like one, self-admin company, which I will not mention on air, where they said, we went out of our way in August to make sure that we said to workers, to members of, their retirement funds, can you apply, not necessarily apply, register online, because they wanted to test their own system. And what they are doing in terms of the cost, they are not paying, they are not charging, so to speak, workers as they claim. Is the system perfect? No, it's not perfect. As Zweli have said, that the idea was noble. It came in 2020. If it was done in 2021, thanks to the delays by bureaucrats, etc., maybe we should be talking about something else. Fundamentally, retirement funds are for retirement. But for the first time in the history of retirement funds, both South Africa and internationally, is that workers are having access, are going to access portion of their retirement funds moving forward. What is of a concern to us is the long queues, was outside COSATU House. There's a long queue from one corner of COSATU to the building of one administrator. That to us is a bit of a concern. We thought that administrators, to the extent that they said that they were not ready in March at the first date of the implementation, by this time around, they'll be ready. And it's something that, we will address. Lastly, there was an issue raised, which was in the inset, that some administrators will be ready by the 23rd of September. I think that's very unfortunate. What were they doing all along when late last year they said come the 1st of March will not be ready, and that was postponed to September. What will not allow is for administrators who are not willing to assist workers because they don't like this thing to go, to run away with murder. Those issues must be addressed. But they can only address when we participate, as we've indicated that we have a meeting tomorrow as part of our weekly meeting, among others, with the Financial Sector Conduct Authority to deal with the challenges, and the Association of Administrators, to make sure that, the abuse, the delays, etc., are addressed.
Mr. Vav, you would know that 6% of South Africans retire comfortably. In trying to find a balance for South Africans to be able to access these funds, and at the same time just ensuring that they have their retirement funds preserved, do you not believe that the measures that have been put in place by government and how the two-part system is designed is partly to the benefit of members when they do retire?
Of course, it does. There's no doubt about it. But before I answer your question, let me just deal with what Comrade Mahlangu is raising, which is must be explained, otherwise it creates unnecessary panic amongst workers. The system, as it has been introduced on the 1st of September, has two exemptions. The first exemption is that it doesn't apply to anyone who was 55 years and more on the 1st of March in 2021. Meaning that if you were born by the 1st of, or before the 1st of March 1966, and you already had a pension retirement fund, all of what we are talking about here doesn't apply to you. That's the first one. The second one, if you already had a pension, retirement fund, annuity, whatever saving schemes you had by the 1st or before the 1st of September, these rules doesn't apply to you, meaning that the rules of your pension provident fund will still be applicable in your case. Meaning that, as Mahlangu is saying, you can still borrow money for this and that in line with the rules of your pension or provident fund. That's the second exception. It's important to emphasize that because that's what the legislation talks to as the third pot. There's a third pot which exempt already existing members of pension provident funds, and their rules applies even now. This, in the main, now to respond to your question, is being done to address new members of the fund, people who were not in the retirement pension fund before the 1st of September. All of these rules will now apply to them, meaning to the young people and going forward. In this context, the fact is that we are told only 50% of all workers belong to any kind of retirement or pension fund. Government wants to address that. Why? Because government is embarking on austerity program, doesn't want the people who have been working all their lives to be its burdens at their retirement age. That's the first thing. And we agree with that. The only problem with that is that then government is not talking to the reality that there is a structural problem of low wages in the economy, and that most of the workers, and certainly those 50% who are not having any pension retirement funds, will not be able to afford any kind of deductions. They are working in the farms, they are working as domestic workers, they are security, they are cleaning, and they are informal sector workers. You can't ask them to take another deduction for their pension fund because they will take zero home. That's the first problem. The second problem is that, indeed, as you are pointing out, only about 6% of South Africa's workers can afford to go on pension comfortably because they will have enough in the kitty to survive until their last day on the Mother Earth. And that's also another structural problem because it will mean two problems. Firstly, they would have deducted or withdrawn their monies before, and secondly, their wages were not high to sustain a lower income at their pension life. As a result of that, then, I saw a study that says actually 73% of workers who are more than 60 years as we speak end up queuing at the SASSA's offices for government old age pension because theirs is too small, have already been exhausted because of the two factors that I spoke to, low wages, but also the mistakes of withdrawing their money during their working life because of the disasters that they will be facing. So please take that into consideration, the context. Right. That's why we are saying, actually, the main beneficiary from this scheme is going to be government, going to get extra taxes. The second beneficiary is going to be the administration companies. They're going to be catching 500. If they even increase that from that 500, you can imagine. Just the 10,000 you are speaking about from one company in your insert will fetch them a 5 million rands extra profits just to push papers in their offices. The third main beneficiary is going to be SARS, because SARS is allowed now to deduct any amount of money that they would have been owed by every individual worker, and such that by the time the money has been released to you, it would have had 3 deductions. 1 by the SARS, 2 by the administration, thirdly by SARS in case you own any amount of money to SARS. So that's why we said, this is a scam. Nobody will build a house of 24,000, 17,000, or even 15,000, or zero if you happen to be owing some money to SARS. And yes, workers are desperate. Look, 80%, according to the FNB study, 80% of higher middle class in South Africa, doctors high up, spend their entire wage every month in 5 days, gone. And 30% of that goes to servicing debts. So we are a highly indebted working class.
Most certainly.
Workers are desperate for any 10,000, 15,000 to pay Mashonisa that is knocking at their door with a knobkiri, because they have not been paying for that Mashonisa for years. So we're not surprised at all that we're hearing and we're seeing long queues of workers trying to catch even the 2,000, 3,000, 15,000, because that will give them some form of a relief, but it will not address what to us is the fundamental problem.
Challenges that they experience.
That they earn too low, and that they have far bigger problems that they are facing, such as the collapsing houses, which they cannot use this amount to build.
All right, gentlemen, unfortunately, we have run out of time. I would have wanted maybe to expand this conversation, especially for you, Saftu, to find out if there is an appetite to challenge the two-part system in its current form, and of course for COSATU, if many of your members have already started accessing these funds. But gentlemen, thank you for your time.